Hello and welcome to Humans of Reliability. Today I am joined by Sebastian, who I'm very excited to chat with. I'm just going to throw it right over to you, Sebastian. How about a quick intro about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, for everybody that doesn't know me, I'm Sebastian. Last name is Vietz, like your feet, if you want to pronounce it. I am officially a director of reliability engineering for a company called Compass Digital. Compass Digital operates in the hospitality space. So we deal with hospitality technology primarily. Um, I lead a team of 10 people, 10 reliability engineers at the moment. And yeah, we're focused primarily on the product engineering side of things. So the technology products that we're handing over to our customers, and they hand then or have them used by their guests. So that's primarily what my team is focused on, to make sure, obviously, that those products are, as we all want them to be, reliable, and they scale well as we are trying to grow as a company and trying to grow our customer base. We pay close attention to how we do this and make sure that we do this in a sustainable fashion.
Awesome. And you speak a lot about reliability leadership. I was curious how you think leading SREs is maybe different from leading other types of software teams in your experience.
The short answer for this is the way I like to build a team of SREs when I get the chance to, and it's kind of my niche, right? This is kind of what I do fairly regularly, and by regularly mean every few years. I get to start with a lot of greenfield opportunities in the past. And the way I like to sort of compose my team is with people that are more generalists in nature. And I call them professional troubleshooters. So people that like to troubleshoot, that like a challenge, that like to go to different places wherever the problem or challenge or opportunity may be, right? And that's not for everybody. But that's sort of what I'm initially looking for when I'm recruiting SREs or folks that come from adjacent disciplines into my team. Because oftentimes when you start greenfield, you really go into places where companies tend to hurt, and you never know what you encounter there, right? So people that are very flexible in terms of their mindset and what they are able to do is critically important at that stage. How is that different? When you compare it to, for example, a product engineering team that wants to build a technology product like an app, for example, right? Put them together, they tend to be fairly steady. They have a defined problem scope, right, or defined scope in general, and then they're building on top of the latest features, the latest functions. They keep building. They're making things better and better and better, but they usually are confined to a specific domain. Oftentimes, that's not my experience with the reliability engineers that I lead. We are jumping quite a bit between different domains because we go where the problems are, right? Where the challenges are. We are not confined to a specific stack or specific domain. If one domain problem is solved there, we move on to the next one.
I love that. That's something that we all share. Those of us who work in this industry is like this weird love for the proverbial can of worms. Like it's like the problem that everyone is running away from. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
We're glutton for punishment in that regard, right?
Yeah, definitely. And in addition to your job leading the team at Compass, you are also a podcaster. So I was curious to hear a bit more about the SRE Path podcast and how that came to be.
Primarily through coincidence, really. I think, as you know, I'm doing the SRE podcast together with a partner, with a co-host, Ash Patel. And Ash and I started to collaborate or maybe just talk with one another because a few years ago, he published a paper about the capabilities that reliability engineers should have or should try to develop when you're a little bit more junior or intermediate, right, to be successful in this particular space. And so I started commenting and gave my own 2 cents to what he wrote, and that's sort of how we got connected. We realized we're both interested in a topic very much, come from very different angles and perspectives, right? Because Ash is a former director of operations, and I am more on the software engineering side. So we have different perspectives and different angles we bring to the table. And I don't know. So we thought one day, wouldn't it be nice if we just go through all the aspects and all the things that we constantly talk about and try and help educate folks that are already in the space, right? That might encounter challenges and problems, and see how we can help them navigate out of them. And we also had a very particular interest in educating folks more around what SRE is, the value proposition, et cetera, that potentially have never heard about reliability engineering, right? Which is still the case today, surprisingly so. But I still have many conversations to this day where this is the first time you're hearing about this term or this discipline, right? So what is it all about? And so that's sort of what we made our focus. All the different topics that you hear us go through in the SRE podcast are sort of related to those intentions.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that Ash also brings that operational perspective, because I think that type of content is something I'm really excited about and drawn to. That's something I love about the podcast is, talking a little bit outside of engineering, which is such an important part, but also acknowledging there's actually even more that goes on, especially when it comes to incidents and, there's the process and the communication. One of the first sort of pieces of content, I guess, that I worked on in this job was I invited Niall Murphy to come with me on the Software Daily podcast. We talked exactly about that, sort of the two sides of the coin with incident response, both the technical and the non-technical roles and how they complement each other, even though it's funny to see that so often they're kind of shielded from each other, which I don't think is the way that it should be. Yeah, awesome. I have a question for you that is on a very different note.
Sure.
You are originally, if I'm correct, from Germany. I would like to know, what is a German food dish that you think everyone should try?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know if it's a typical food dish for Germany, but I always loved one that my grandma made. And it was made in a very weird way. And that may have had something to do with the ingenuity of the folks that were born in East Germany, because that's where I'm originally from. So if people still remember the history, there used to be 2 Germanys at some point in time, and I was born in the Eastern one, in East Germany. And we had a dish where it was basically a nice piece of beef with some gravy and with whatever vegetable you would like. But the main highlight of the dish was basically a potato, first mashed, not too fine. That was important. It needed to be malleable, so you basically took it in your hand, you molded it into a little bit of a ball, then you cracked it open, you put fried pieces of toast into the middle, you closed it up again, and then you boiled those balls of potato mash, if you wanted to, in just hot water just to get them to become edible. And then put that together on the dish, and that was always has been one of my favorites.
I am a big fan of anything that involves toast and potatoes, so I would definitely be into that. Can't say I encountered that when I was in Germany. I did try currywurst in Berlin, which apparently is a very popular thing there. It was interesting.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely a good street dish to try as well. And they come in very different forms and flavors depending on where you are in Germany, because every part of Germany does them a little bit differently. But Berlin is definitely a good place for currywurst. Yeah.
Yeah. I was also surprised to learn when I was in Berlin that it is apparently, and I haven't fact checked this, so I could be wrong, but apparently it is the vegan food capital of the world.
Oh, I did not know that either. Okay, interesting.
Someone will keep me honest, in case that's.
I'm sure.
But a Berliner told me that, so I took their word for it.
All right.
Awesome. I have one more fun question for you. I did a little bit of research on the SRE Path website, and I saw that you are an avid woodworker. And I would like to know what's your favorite thing you ever made out of wood?
The favorite thing I ever made out of wood. I think it was a showcase. It is basically a rough piece of lumber, right? Like oddly shaped. And I really liked sort of the shape of it, but I didn't know what am I supposed to do with it. It wasn't too big. It was not big enough for a shelf. It was not straight enough for anything. So I could incorporate it into a piece of furniture. So what I ended up doing, I used it as a backdrop. So it looks almost like a bit like a Christmas tree when you look at it just on its own. But what I ended up doing is carving slots into it at certain intervals, put little shelves into it, and then as an avid woodworker, I, over the years, collected really old wood planes, metal and wooden wood planes. So those are the ones that you use to shape wood, right? And some of my planes are over 100 years old. So I wanted to have a really nice place to put them. I still use them. I don't buy anything for my woodworking just because I like the look of it. I really want to use the old stuff. But that was a really nice place where I can basically have a really wide shelf at the bottom. There's a really big one standing on top of it. And then you get basically smaller as you go further up. And I use two contrasting woods for that as well. That the one, that oddly shaped piece that is the back, is very light. And then the pieces that are basically those mini shelves where the planes stand on top of, they're really, really dark. And so it makes for a really nice, interesting wood color contrast, shape contrast. And then you have these really old pieces of basically woodworking history sitting on top of it. And it's one of my favorite pieces. It looks really nice.
Yeah, that's super cool. I might have to get you to send me a picture so we can.
I do. I have one. Yes, I can.
Awesome. That is actually all 5 questions that I had mapped out for us today. Like I said, we like to keep these pretty short and sweet. But as we're wrapping up, is there anything else you would like people to know? I know we touched on the SRE Path podcast. We'll make sure there's a link there for the website. But is there anything else you'd want to share?
Yeah, thank you for the shout out for the SRE podcast. If anybody wants to get hold of me, I'm an avid advocate, helper, people that really don't understand SRE particularly well or really are in a troubled spot. I'm always open to help and provide people with guidance and advice. So reach out to me. I can be reached LinkedIn, through SRE Path podcast, Twitter. Like I'm probably on most of the social media platforms as well. And yeah, that's my main shout out here. So thank you very much for giving me that opportunity.
Perfect. And thank you very much for coming on the show. I still don't know what to call it. Is it a show? Whatever we want to call it. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And yeah, thanks again. It's been awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.